Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to be untangling a highly complex 70-chapter psychological thriller called The Empire of Knowledge. Now, if you are at all fascinated by the mechanics of power, deep state conspiracies, or just the idea of a massive educational empire challenging the very foundations of the government, well, you are in for an absolute treat today. We're going to break down the timeline, the core characters, and some truly massive plot twists that make this story an absolute masterclass in suspense. But before we get into the actual timeline of events, I want you to consider this thought. The world runs not on rules, but by rule makers. This is a cold, open philosophical statement spoken by a pivotal character named Rudra, and it perfectly anchors the gritty theme of the entire story. It's not just a cool catchphrase, It represents the absolute, unchecked corruption of power and institutions that our main protagonist is going to be forced to navigate. So, how does a regular person actually decide to take on those rule makers? That brings us to part one, from injustice to empire and the rise of an idea. Our protagonist, Arjun, starts off with a deeply traumatic premise. Imagine being wrongfully arrested and brutally beaten by the police for absolutely no reason. Sitting in his dark cell, Arjun has this realization that justice actually requires structural power. He doesn't just get mad, he formulates a methodical plan. While he's locked up, he meets the terrifyingly calm Rudra, a guy whose mere presence commands all the other inmates. And Rudra tasks Arjun with a mission. Don't just change your own life. Build an institution that prepares an entire generation to truly understand power. So once he's released, Arjun acquires a piece of totally barren land and starts what he calls the Rudra Gyan Ashram. And what begins as a complete joke to the outside world rapidly transforms into a massive educational powerhouse. And to put the sheer scale of what Arjun accomplishes into perspective, it's truly staggering. I mean, he starts out with just 10 students, then 500. Fast forward 10 years later, he has thousands of students who have systematically infiltrated all levels of the system. We're talking doctors, engineers, journalists, and crucially, police and administrative officers. He didn't build an army with swords, he built an empire with books. His students essentially act as a living, breathing check on systemic corruption all across the country. But just as you think you're settling in for a straightforward, feel-good underdog story, the narrative violently shifts. Welcome to part two, The Labyrinth of Power, where the conspiracy actually begins. The whole thing kicks off with this incredibly chilling trigger. A mysterious letter arrives stating that Rudra, who, by the way, was officially documented as dying in prison years ago, is actually alive. And the letter warns Arjun that his real mission has finally begun. This completely shatters Arjun's perceived reality. He genuinely thought he was running an independent, merit-based educational utopia. But a hidden reality starts bleeding through. He suddenly discovers secret political funding, a massive deep state dossier called Operation Nyai, and millions of dollars being routed right through his own network without him having any clue. The clean, righteous empire he thought he built? Yeah, it was secretly being funded and manipulated by Rudra's shadow network all along. Suddenly, this external political conspiracy just escalates at breakneck speed. The ashram gets hit with these surprise government investigations, fake bank accounts are discovered set up in Arjun's name, millions have been quietly routed to a mysterious trust called the Rudra Lok Shiksha Nyas, and the guy pulling the strings behind all of this chaos is Devendra Rathore. He's this ruthless political consultant who, get this, actually signed Arjun's original false arrest report 20 years ago. Rathore is deliberately backing Arjun into a corner, forcing him to enter politics as a candidate just so he can defend himself. It's a terrifying look at how quickly clean institutions can get hijacked by hidden political machinery. Which naturally leads us into part three, the third man. It is time to start peeling the onion. So completely refusing to be just another political pawn, Arjun starts digging deep into his own organization's shadow trusts. He's looking for the original architects who have been orchestrating this entire timeline from behind the scenes. We've got Rudra, the architect, who is totally obsessed with building independent institutions. Then there's Vivekananda, the strategist, whose core motive is just gaining raw political influence. We know Arjun is the successor, pursuing justice. But the absolute bombshell revelation here is the ghost. Samar Pratap, the so-called third man. Samar was a former official who supposedly died in a car crash 2 decades ago, but as Arjun finds out, he actually faked his own death so he could protect the project from the government. To really grasp the depth of this conspiracy, we have to look at how all these timelines connect. 20 years ago, Samar fakes his death, and guess who signs that falsified police report? Devendra Rathore, the exact same political consultant who is laying the election trap for Arjun in the present day. And right smack in the middle, 5 years ago, there was a secret founders meeting that somehow tied all these men together, manipulating Arjun's entire path without him ever knowing. And as Arjun is digging deeper and deeper into the archives, this one tiny obsessive detail keeps violently surfacing: the number 17. Specifically, August 17th. It's the exact date of Samar's fake death 20 years ago. It's the exact date of Arjun's initial wrongful arrest. It's the secret code R17 used in those shadowy bank transfers. It is literally even the number engraved on a mysterious key he finds. The psychological tension here is cranked up to a suffocating degree because everything in Arjun's life is somehow connected by this single haunting number. And that brings us to the final and, honestly, most mind-bending part of our explainer, Part 4. The true secret of the past, the psychological twist. If you thought this was just going to be a political chess match, the narrative completely inverts right here into a dark psychological thriller. Arjun finally tracks down the original 5-year-old founding documents of the Shadow Trust, fully expecting to find the name of the ultimate puppet master. Instead, he finds the 4th founder. And that founder is Arjun himself. His own signature is sitting right there on those 5-year-old documents right alongside Rudra, Vivekananda, and Samar. He wasn't just some innocent pawn. He was part of the cabal all along. So you are probably wondering, how on earth does he not remember any of this, right? Well, because 5 years ago, during that secret meeting, Arjun realized his partners were planning to weaponize his educational empire for political gain. Fearing for the integrity of his life's work, Arjun voluntarily wiped a 6-month block of his own memory. He locked away the truth in a hidden room, room 17, and left a secret audio recording warning his future self not to trust anyone, not even Rudra. He literally orchestrated his own ignorance just to protect his empire. Just picture this incredibly chilling climax. Arjun is standing there in the dark, dusty records of room 17, listening to his own voice on a tape warning him of the betrayal. He looks into a hidden mirror, essentially staring at a complete stranger. A clock on the wall that had been stopped for exactly 5 years suddenly starts ticking again. Tick, tick, tick. The lights cut out, and from the shadows behind him, Rudra, Vivekananda, and the supposedly dead Samar step out. They corner him, forcing him to realize that the righteous, independent past he believed in was just a fabricated story he told himself to cope. Which leaves us with a final, absolutely haunting question. Can Arjun actually change the system, or is he his own worst enemy? It's just a phenomenal deconstruction of power. When you fight the rule makers, do you eventually have to rewrite your own truth and become a rule maker yourself just to survive? I highly, highly encourage you to dive into this incredible source material to see how this whole psychological chessboard plays out. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and remember, keep questioning the rules.